Welcome back to the Arise Exchange right here on Arise News. Cybersecurity recently identified as one of the top 3 concerns for risks for businesses in Nigeria in 2024, according to Allianz Global in a new report. Data privacy, of course, therefore a top priority for both businesses and individuals. It was a major focus for the world's Data Privacy Week. Talking to us now more on this is Mr. Wole Abu. He's the CEO at Liquid Intelligent Technologies. Good evening to you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us. How would you, I guess, assess the data privacy landscape for Nigeria? And how do you think, is there enough literacy around this or knowledge around this?
Short answer, no.
Okay.
The data privacy law in Nigeria itself is barely 6 months old.
Yeah.
It was signed in June into law by the new president. Before that, there had been was a bureau that has now been upgraded to a full commission because of the rising importance of cybersecurity and the trend of countries enacting privacy laws. So Nigeria, I think, is the 35th country in Africa that has enacted that. So you can see that we're not yet there in terms of the awareness, in terms of putting the legal frameworks in place, and more importantly, having the people and the organizations and the data processors understanding what they can and cannot do with data with respect to what's happening in Nigeria, because each country has unique needs for how to manage data.
Okay. Now, so do you think businesses in Nigeria are doing enough to protect themselves from breaches? Because you see some businesses with Hotmail accounts and things like that. So, how would you assess that?
Frankly, it's not just Nigeria. Around Africa, typically in sub-Saharan Africa, we tend to be the laggards when it comes to technology because we're not a technology first type of environment, but we're catching up. If you see, even in Africa, we don't all have the frameworks yet. Without the legal framework, you can't enforce, you can't even guide. So there are broadly three types of companies in Africa, or let's say in Nigeria. The multinationals typically have to comply because they are doing businesses with other people who have had data protection laws for ages. Data Privacy Week didn't start today. It started in 1981. So there are companies who are not originally, let's say, domiciled in Africa, so they have those laws, internal guidelines already. For example, Liquid, we've had privacy laws since we even deal in cybersecurity. Then there are people who operate mainly in Nigeria and they don't have the competence, they don't have the internal processes, policies, because they don't know. It's not even required. That's why they can use email that is a free email. Even government offices are guilty of that. So the awareness is not, they don't even know. You don't know what you don't know. Then there are people who, as a result of trying to expand into countries that have this type of regulations, are forced to comply, and therefore they start looking inward to develop the right policies, to put information security management systems in place, data leakage protection processes in place, and all that. So that's how, I think it's a journey. Yeah. I mean, African businesses face a lot of challenges. The importance of having the Awareness Week is to actually highlight that there's now a law, and therefore there are consequences for non-compliance.
Okay. So for companies that want to either improve transparency or trust with customers that they can warehouse their data in a protective manner, what do they need to do?
I think it boils down to, first, getting consent and informing customers about their rights under the data protection law. Yeah. You need to have things in place to ensure that people give consent to how their data is collected, how it is used, how it is stored, how it is transmitted, because data is sometimes at rest, sometimes in motion, sometimes in use.
Yeah.
If you're collecting data, you're the data controller, you sometimes pass that data on to a third party for processing. If you don't have the right framework, then there could be breaches along the line. And people have a right to say, okay, I don't want my data to be processed in a certain way. People don't even know that. They give up their data. Some of us data subjects actually create more problems. You share passwords, you leave if your personal information lying around, you push it. So a lot has to happen in terms of awareness, which is why even the commission itself has done a lot in terms of enlightenment, in terms of trying to recruit data processing officers, DPOs. I think they say they need about 500,000 of them.
Wow.
Yes, because it's a huge country. Data is a huge, the digital economy is a huge market and it's growing in leaps and bounds. And you do need data protection officers in each place because you're churning out a lot of data these days. So it's a journey.
What would be your advice for businesses and maybe even individuals that want to, I guess in the workplace, if you want to secure the privacy of data or protect it, and then maybe even for individuals, what would your advice be?
Starting point will be having the right internal framework policy to guide that. Then you have to have a lot of education since it's relatively new in this side of the world.
Yeah.
And you have to have solid processes. Then there are tools, of course, for there are frameworks for managing this. I mentioned a couple of them before. Broadly speaking, they're information security management systems. How you collect data, how you store them, how you transmit them. Each of those processes and policies have to be documented and signed off so that people are aware. It's just like an audit process for companies, financial processes relating to finance. In information security now, you need to have documented processes that align with the law. The law, the frameworks are very clear under the law, how you handle data, what you should do. Is exposing your staff and every other third party who may handle this data to that regulation and ensuring that there's an internal harmony with what this regulation says, both locally and internationally in every place where you operate. That's what is required to secure that. And of course, giving the subject, the trust, the transparency to request for how your data is being used, what is being done to it, and in fact to even refuse the use of personal data for certain things. Those are the rights that people have, and they need to be made aware of that.
So how are you guys at Liquid setting the standards? How are you, protecting data in the cybersecurity field and so on and so forth?
So, we provide advisory services, we provide cybersecurity services, cloud and co. So we've got a very robust information security management system that has, have, for example, access control systems. You have to classify data in certain ways. If it's not relevant to your work or to your area, you have no access to it.
Yeah.
It's also purpose-driven. You have to collect data for a specific purpose and for a specific time. So the guidelines for that internally. And when we provide cybersecurity services to clients, we also make sure we help them, take them through these processes and help them set up processes, help them with the right tools, right from the network layer to internal processes. We are able to advise and solidify. We do it as a service, so even internally we are top-notch in that.
So what would you want to see this year from government in terms of pushing out, maybe it's not just government, maybe private sector has to play a role here, pushing out more of the awareness that's lacking as the year progresses? Well, what would you want to see?
So, well, charity begins at home. So there are a couple of government agencies that deal with a lot of data.
Yeah.
It will be good to have them trained and start to adhere to policies. They should not collect unnecessary data. You go somewhere and the little things that you observe, some of them are analog.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've seen situations where people's information
just laying there.
is just laying there, right out in the open. I can come in there and I see that Rotus was here, and I see your email, your date of birth, your marital status, private information that maybe I shouldn't have. You should permit me to have it. They should have. So I think government processing of data starts there. I think the commission has started on a very good footing. They have a very sound MD who knows what he's doing. He's laid out a roadmap. If he sticks to that roadmap, I think we'll get there. There's also interagency collaboration. Sometimes people tend to act in silos in government. Then for African business, for Nigerian businesses, we need to see it as an opportunity, not another hurdle. It is actually to your advantage because data breaches, I think in 2022, I haven't seen the 2023 numbers, average data breach was about $4 million, and there were over 1,500 of them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you need to protect your business. There's so many ways in which you can kill your business if you do not comply. So this is actually a protective mechanism, not just another hurdle, another regulatory roadblock. It's actually to safeguard your business because the cyber criminals who have launched, whose business is actually just to attack
breach.
With the rise in AI, you're seeing that these things can be automated and it's quite cheap. It's cheaper to just be attacking you. So you need to protect yourself and protect the data of the company, of the people whose data you're collecting for your business, because you won't be happy if you find out that your data has been leaked, XYZ. Then I think there should be more transparency about announcing breaches. People tend to hide breaches because they don't want to demarcate themselves. But what happens is that the cyber criminals get emboldened because they know nobody's going to expose them. So we should have a mechanism. I know there's some mechanisms now, but it should be consistently applied so that people can announce breaches and people can be aware that there's a breach and therefore do basic things like change your password, like a request for more information so that you're sure about what's happening.
Thank you so much. Very enlightening discussion on a very important topic that we hope will get more awareness as the year progresses. Mr. Wole Abu, the CEO at Liquid Intelligent Technologies, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Rotis.